You're looking at one of history's strangest decisions. An entire city carved into stone, hidden inside a dead desert where almost nobody should have survived. And that's the mystery. Petra wasn't built beside lush farmland or a great river. It rose in brutal rock and heat instead. Just crossing this landscape feels dangerous now, so imagine hauling stone, animals, food, and water here long before engines, pipes, trucks, or maps existed. What makes this even crazier is Petra wasn't one building. It was a massive city, engineered into cliffs across an unforgiving desert basin. People love admiring the facades, but the real question is logistics. How did builders support thousands of lives in terrain this hostile? Because Petra wasn't just carved beautifully, it was planned intelligently. Hidden in these cliffs was a system that turned disaster into advantage. This desert didn't only kill with thirst, it could also explode with floodwater, turning narrow canyons into deadly traps within minutes. And here's where it gets incredible. The very desert that looked impossible may be the exact reason Petra could exist at all. Behind the famous stone facades was something even more impressive, a hidden survival machine designed to capture, store, protect, and ration water. So Petra wasn't built in an impossible desert by mistake. It was built there for a reason. And that reason changes everything. The people behind Petra weren't empire builders or kings. They were traders, desert nomads who understood something outsiders rarely ever noticed. For centuries, caravans crossed these deserts, carrying incense, spices, silk, and wealth between Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean world. But desert trade wasn't just difficult, it was dangerous. Bandits, rival tribes, and brutal landscapes made long journeys unpredictable. And that's when Petra starts making sense. Because this city wasn't exposed in the open desert, it was hidden inside mountains, protected by narrow canyons and steep cliffs that turned geography into a natural fortress. To outsiders, this landscape looked empty and deadly, but the Nabataeans read the desert like a map. They knew where rainwater collected, where seasonal springs appeared, and how storms carved temporary rivers through dry valleys. Instead of fighting the desert, they engineered ways to capture every drop it offered. And slowly, stone by stone, channel by channel, they turned one of the harshest landscapes on Earth into a thriving trade capital. But Petra's greatest secret wasn't just water or trade. It was how the city itself controlled the desert. Rain in the desert is rare, but when it comes, it arrives violently, rushing through narrow canyons like a sudden river that can destroy anything standing in its path. In ancient times, flash floods could surge through Petra's canyon entrance without warning, turning the quiet passage into a violent torrent capable of wiping out travelers instantly. But instead of fearing the floods, Petra's engineers did something brilliant. They learned to control them, redirecting violent stormwater into carefully carved channels. These channels were not simple ditches. They were precise hydraulic systems designed to move water safely around the city while protecting the narrow entrance canyon. One of Petra's greatest defenses was a hidden dam system that captured violent floodwater before it could reach the city's heart. The captured water didn't simply disappear. It was stored in massive underground reservoirs carved directly into the rock beneath the city. Some of these reservoirs could store enormous amounts of water, enough to support thousands of people and traveling caravans passing through the desert. Water then traveled through pipes, channels, and hidden conduits, distributing precious supplies across Petra's homes, gardens, and public spaces. Inside Petra, once travelers found something almost unbelievable for the desert: flowing water, shaded courtyards, and thriving gardens hidden among the cliffs. What looked like an impossible desert was actually the perfect place for a city built by masters of water, stone, and survival.
Long before ships dominated global trade, wealth moved across deserts on caravans like these, carrying incense, spices, perfumes, silk, and precious goods between distant civilizations. Among the most valuable cargo was incense, a rare resin burned in temples across Egypt, Rome, and the Mediterranean world. These trade routes stretched across thousands of kilometers, connecting Arabia to Egypt, Syria, and eventually the powerful cities of the Roman world. And right in the middle of these routes stood Petra, perfectly positioned to control the flow of trade between continents. Caravans arriving here had little choice but to stop, rest, and trade, turning Petra into one of the richest cities in the desert world. Traders from Arabia, Egypt, and even distant Rome passed through these canyons, bringing wealth, languages, and cultures together inside Petra's stone walls. But controlling trade also meant controlling access, and Petra's narrow canyon entrance made that surprisingly easy. Any caravan entering Petra had to pass through this tight corridor, making it almost impossible to approach the city unnoticed. What looked like an isolated desert settlement was actually one of the most strategically positioned cities in the ancient world. Petra was not just surviving the desert, it was quietly controlling one of the most valuable trade networks of the ancient world. For centuries, Petra flourished as a powerful trade city, but then something strange happened. The city slowly faded from history. Caravans that once crowded these streets began arriving less frequently, and the energy of the city slowly began to disappear. One major reason came from far away. Trade routes were changing as ships began moving goods across seas instead of deserts. Sea routes were faster and safer, slowly replacing the long desert caravans that once passed through Petra. As trade shifted away from the desert, Petra's importance quietly began to shrink. Then, nature delivered another blow. Powerful earthquakes damaged Petra's delicate water systems and infrastructure. Without its carefully engineered water system, the city could no longer support the large population it once held. Over generations, the population shrank, buildings emptied, and the once busy desert capital slowly returned to silence. Eventually, Petra became something few people would expect, a forgotten city hidden in the desert. For centuries, Petra remained hidden from the outside world, quietly resting inside desert cliffs while most of the world forgot it had ever existed. Then, in 1812, a traveler named Johann Ludwig Burckhardt arrived in this region with curiosity and a secret plan. To explore the region safely, he disguised himself as a local traveler, adopting new clothing, language, and customs. Guided through a narrow canyon, he followed a winding path that few outsiders had ever seen. Then suddenly, the canyon opened, revealing a breathtaking structure carved into the cliff. Burckhardt had discovered something extraordinary, a lost city hidden deep within the desert mountains. As he explored further, he realized this was not just a temple or ruin, it was an enormous ancient city carved directly into mountains. Burckhardt documented what he saw, sharing the discovery with the world beyond the desert. After centuries of silence, Petra returned to global attention once again.
When people first see Petra, they often assume the buildings were constructed like normal structures. But Petra was never built that way. Instead of assembling stone blocks, the builders carved entire structures directly out of solid rock. Most facades were carved from the top of the cliff downward, an incredibly dangerous technique requiring careful planning. The level of detail is astonishing, especially considering these designs were carved using simple tools more than 2,000 years ago. Some of Petra's structures were enormous, like the monastery, a giant monument carved high into the mountains. Even reaching some of these monuments requires climbing hundreds of steps carved directly into the mountain. Behind many of the impressive facades were large interior chambers carved deep inside the rock. Across the valley, hundreds of tombs and structures were carved into the cliffs, forming an entire city within the mountains. Every wall, staircase, and temple reveals how deeply the Nabataeans understood the stones surrounding them. Petra was not just a collection of monuments, it was an entire mountain transformed into a city. While Petra's famous monuments look complete, archaeologists have discovered something unusual across the cliffs surrounding the city. Several structures across Petra were abandoned during construction, leaving clear tool marks frozen in the rock. It almost looks as if workers stopped suddenly and never returned. Across entire cliff walls, you can see outlines of monuments that were planned but never finished. This raises an important question. Why would builders capable of such impressive architecture leave so many projects incomplete? One possibility is that Petra's decline came faster than expected, interrupting construction projects already underway. Natural disasters, such as earthquakes, may have damaged parts of the city and forced residents to abandon building plans. Whatever the reason, these unfinished monuments remain frozen in time. They reveal something rare: the exact methods ancient craftsmen used while shaping the mountains. Even today, Petra still feels like a giant workshop paused in the middle of history. One of the most surprising discoveries at Petra is how advanced the city's water system really was. Engineers used clay pipes, carved channels, and stone reservoirs to move water across the city. These systems were carefully maintained to ensure water continued flowing even during long dry seasons. Large reservoirs stored rainwater collected during storms, providing enough supply to support the city's population. Even dangerous flash floods were turned into a resource by redirecting water safely into storage systems. Inside Petra, travelers could find flowing water, shaded courtyards, and even gardens. The Nabataeans understood their environment better than most civilizations of their time. Petra was carefully designed to work with the desert landscape rather than against it. What looked like an impossible desert was actually the perfect location for a carefully engineered city. Petra was never a mistake. It was a masterpiece of desert engineering. At first glance, Petra seems like the worst possible place to build a city. There were no major rivers here, no fertile farmland, and almost no reliable rainfall. But that same harsh landscape gave Petra something incredibly valuable: protection. Only a few narrow entrances allowed access to the city. From high cliffs above the canyon, watchers could see caravans approaching long before they reached the city. This gave Petra incredible control over the desert trade routes, and with their advanced water systems, the Nabataeans turned rare desert storms into a dependable supply. The result was a thriving desert capital that surprised travelers from across the ancient world. Petra was not built in an impossible desert by accident. It was built there by people who understood the desert better than anyone else in the ancient world. If you enjoy real history that feels unreal, subscribe and like the video so you don't miss the next story. Thank you.